Joining me right now from the campaign trail in Manchester, New Hampshire, is New Jersey Governor, Republican presidential candidate Christie. Governor, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Maria, happy to be on with you, and I'll see you in Charleston tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to see you tonight, and then I'll see you tomorrow at the big debate. We're looking forward to that. Governor, let me get your take first on the developing story this morning that Iran jailed these 10 sailors, captured them yesterday. On the very day that the president is giving his State of the Union address, we know now, thank God, that these sailors have been released. What's your take on these developments?
Well, first, Maria, I agree with you. I think we need to thank God for the fact that they're healthy and they're fine and they're back in the hands of their fellow citizens, and that's important. But listen, this is a display by the Iranians of how little they respect this president and how weak this president truly is. That on the day of his State of the Union address, they would take this kind of provocative action and jail American servicemen and women is outrageous. And this is why the American people are so nervous, why they're scared and anxiety-ridden over our place in the world and what it means for our own safety and the safety of their fellow citizens. This president just failed us. And when you listen to that speech last night, I'm telling you, it's like it's story time with Barack Obama, because there was absolutely nothing in that speech last night that wasn't about the world the way the president wishes it was. I see the world the way it is, and we need to change it.
I thought it was really extraordinary that he did not mention what was going on at the time in Iran, that our 10 sailors were there, and yet he did praise the deal, the nuclear deal that the U.S. led. Now, the president's chief spokesperson this morning, Governor, is talking about you, basically saying, look, why is Governor Christie so negative? His assessment of the State of the Union shows a sharp contrast between what the president thinks. So he says it's all good.
Listen, I'm glad that Josh Earnest is speaking about me again. Here, I'll give the message right back to Josh. That's because I live in the real world, Josh, and your boss lives in fantasy land. I mean, this is a guy who might as well be at Epcot Center, not be in the White House. It's absolutely outrageous. I mean, when you hear him last night say that our Syria policy is working, you know, Maria, tell the 250,000 dead Syrians that the policy is working. Tell the Syrian refugees who are running for their lives to Europe and to other parts of the Middle East. I mean, right now, the fourth largest city in Jordan is a refugee camp. And this is a president who says our Syria policy is working. This is a guy who says that ISIS is being overestimated by us. Well, tell the families of the 130 dead people in Paris that we're overestimating them. Tell the families of the 14 dead folks in San Bernardino that we're overestimating them. And tell the families of the folks who were killed in Turkey that we're overestimating them. This president lives in his own world. We should give him a lifetime pass to Disney World. Let him go down there because he doesn't belong in the White House.
All right, well, you make a lot of good points, and obviously national security is the top issue for the American voters. So let's assume you do get the nomination and break out from here and win the election, the general election. What do you do as a President Christie come January 17?
Well, first, on the terrorism front, you know, Maria, given the 7 years I spent as United States Attorney fighting terrorism after 9/11, I know exactly what to do. We need to increase our intelligence capability. We have to increase our law enforcement capability, because our first job is to protect the homeland, to keep the American people safe and secure. And no one needs to explain to me how to do it. I don't need to read the owner's manual. I know how to do this. Secondly, we need to rebuild our relationships around the world and rebuild alliances so we can take the fight to ISIS around the world, not be sitting here like sitting ducks waiting to be hit, and for our allies waiting to be hit. We need to rebuild those relationships so that our folks, our allies around the world, will trust us again. And we need to have some very direct talks with our adversaries and tell them not only what we hope to see the condition of the world be, but also to tell them the limits of our patience and make sure they understand that violating those limits will have ramifications for them.
I want to get into economics in a minute, but do you agree, before we leave this subject, do you agree with Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator John McCain, by the way, that we should be sending 20,000 troops to Iraq and Syria right now?
Listen, Maria, what I believe is that we've got to build a coalition of our NATO allies and our Sunni Arab allies to fight ISIS. America cannot go this alone, but America has to lead it. You know, I've said this before, Maria. American leadership is both filled with opportunities and burdens, but it's not a choice. We have to lead. And so I believe that we have to lead it, but we have to get everybody else involved in the game too. The leaders in Paris and in Germany and in Great Britain, they know as well that ISIS is a threat to them, and they need to help us bring the fight.
Yeah, no doubt about it, particularly after hundreds of women were attacked by refugees, in the thousands, by the way, in Cologne, Germany. Let me move over to economics here, Governor, because we've had the worst beginning of the year of any year. Markets are obviously worried. There's some predictions that we're going to go into a recession in 2016. GOP voters feel that tax reform is going to be real important. Why do you think your tax plan is better than your colleagues on stage tomorrow night?
Our tax plan is better, Maria, because it's very simple. We get rid of all the deductions and all the special interest loopholes except for the two that people really use, that real people use every day. That is the home mortgage interest deduction and the charitable contribution deduction. In return, we can lower rates to where they were or lower than in 1986 when Ronald Reagan did bipartisan tax reform. 28% highest rate, 8% lowest rate in just 3 brackets. People can do their taxes in 15 minutes, Maria, under my plan. And I'll tell you something else, it'll be fair, because the rich won't be able to use all these special interest loopholes and deductions that their lobbyists bought down in Washington, D.C. So they're only going to have 2 deductions as well, and they're going to have to pay their fair share of taxes, as well as middle-class families in this country. So that's why our tax plan is the best one and the one that has the best chance of passing.
Real quick, Governor, what's the most important lever you can push to get growth moving again in this country?
The most important, there's really 2, Maria. They work together. It is the change to the tax code and make the tax code smart, both on the individual and corporate side. But then it's what I'm going to do with my first executive order. My first executive order is going to freeze any new regulation from any department or agency of the government for 6 months, and to begin a systematic lifting of these incredible regulations where Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have this government in every corner of your life. It's a wet blanket on our economy, and we're going to get that wet blanket off and let our economy grow jobs again.
And you think you can beat Hillary Clinton?
I know I can beat Hillary Clinton. No doubt about it. Same way I beat John Corzine against all odds in New Jersey. Listen, New Jersey is the toughest state for a Republican to win in the country. And yet, we haven't elected a Republican to the United States Senate in 43 years. And you saw it, Maria. You live in the area. Not only did I beat John Corzine after a barrage of $33 million in negative ads against me in 2009, but then they thought I was going to be a one-termer. And I won re-election with 61% of the vote from the people of New Jersey, 51% of the Hispanic vote, and 57% of the female vote against a female candidate. I have experience doing this. I've won in the toughest places, and I'm going to beat Hillary Clinton.